Cottrell, Secretary and Treasurer.
Richard.
Brenda Mottram.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Richard.
We're going in order of the pictures across the top, if you can see them. Okay, Richard, you're next.
Richard Guimon, Neck Road.
Okay.
Bill Smith from Civil Engineering Concepts.
Okay, and then we've got a call-in again. Can the call-in person hear us?
Maybe it's Connie.
Tom.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Tom.
Oh, Mr. Malinsky, is that you?
Yeah, could you somehow, it kept saying I was muted, and I tried *6, and then all of a sudden it finally came in. You hear me
Okay,
well?
we can hear you now.
Yep.
Can you hear us?
Okay.
I guess you can hear us, right?
Yep, yeah, it sounds, I was listening to the whole conversation with Liz and that, and I'm trying to get it, put a *6. I dialed in a couple of times to try to, it finally got through, so
Okay.
it didn't accept the original.
I've never tried it with the phone, but maybe there's some issues with that. I always try it through the computer. But
Yeah.
I will let the
I didn't have any problems.
town administrator know
The
there's an
last
issue.
time I didn't have, the last times they didn't have any issues, but for some reason it was just, I put *6 in. Well, I did say a *5/6, so I made a mistake the first time, so that didn't work. So I tried the *6 and that didn't work, so I tried calling in again, and finally I got through, so.
We're
Probably
coming
use
in
it.
loud and clear.
Sounds good,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, very good.
So
All right.
I did get the Moderna shots 1 and 2, just in case, if you guys wanted to know. So,
And so far, so good, I hope.
well, the first shot was not too bad. It just sore arm and a kind of a malaise that you would feel like if you're getting the flu. Second shot, I got hives all over my body in different places.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of interesting. My son John got it. His second shot was he had a really bad headache, and
Yeah.
so it was a pleasure for him. So,
Yeah.
but then he got over it.
Amazing,
Because
because my wife and I never got anything. We didn't even know we had the shots. We got both of them.
Yeah.
Well, I got the side
reaction.
effect for all of you.
No reaction at all.
All right.
I
Well,
I
hopefully
got the
we'll
booby prize.
all avoid the disease, which hopefully is worse than the treatment.
Yeah.
Okay. Public delegations, if any member of the public would like to address the commission on anything relative to or related to its charge, I guess the only member of the public would be you, Mr. Smith. I think you got something coming up anyway, so unless you want to say something else, like how good looking we are or something else like that.
I'll wait till you're ready for me with you.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Item 2, approval of minutes. It's been a long time since we've gotten together, February 16th, 2021. Is there anything we need to do, change, alter, anything with regard to those minutes, which I have over here under this somewhere?
Oh, no, like always, Liz did a good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a motion then to approve the minutes as submitted? Here they are.
I'll make the motion, Tom.
There's a second?
I'll
second
second.
it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the minutes are official and I can post them on the state site. That brings us to money, treasurer's report.
Same thing, 750.
Okay.
When's that have to be spent by? June 30th?
Yes, I believe so.
Whoa. It's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's
Can you have a party?
Remember, this is being recorded.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
Let's
Yeah,
not get
okay.
too excited here. Okay.
What are they gonna do, fire me?
Yeah,
They will
exactly.
cut your salary for sure.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
at least in half.
Maybe quartered. Okay. Chairman's report. First thing is, the good news is the town hall is open for business now without appointments, as I understand it. They have not yet decided to hold meetings in person. There's something to do with the governor's order about this virtual type meeting stuff that hasn't been lifted. So there's still a requirement to do that in it. So if you're going to do a live meeting, you have the live meeting, you have that, and you have the recording, and I guess they're not sure exactly how to do that. So for the time being, don't know how long, there's still going to be virtual meetings. So even if we wanted to do a live meeting, it would be problematic because you'd have to have some sort of a computer set up. So if a member of the public or somebody, an applicant, let's say that we're reviewing a thing for, if they wanted to Zoom in, we have to be able to accommodate that. So
Yeah.
the direction I was given for the time being is that we're still doing this until either that order's lifted or they figure out, how to equip the town hall and maybe the library to do that.
That's
But at
opened a
least you
whole
can-
can of worms.
At least you can walk in now. You don't need an appointment and you can see people
Right.
and that kind of stuff, which is something we've been kind of waiting for. And then what else do I have here? Let's see. There's a group local workshop on June 16th. It's for the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. It's a Zoom meeting. If anybody's interested, I can send the contact information. They're looking for feedback from the public about what their priorities should be for the coming year. I think they do this every year. This year, of course, it's a virtual meeting. And then there's another meeting. I think I have it down separate. So I'm not going to talk about this yet. So I think I've got that set. That's all I had. If there's anything else, we can go on to the next thing, which is brief announcements, if anybody else has any announcements.
No, I'm good.
Okay, anybody else? Going once, going twice? All right, we're ready to move on to the first item on the agenda here, which is Mr. Smith's ERS review, Nonquit Pond Watershed Overlay District, 197 Neck Road in Tiverton, Rhode Island, Penelope, Neville, and Gretchen, Polasek. Applicants, construction of 2-bedroom addition to existing house and new on-site wastewater treatment system. Assessor's Plat 705, Lot 105. Now, Mr. Smith, I know I did forward everybody what you had sent me, but I know it's fairly large. I don't know if everybody can get it and open it, so you may have to kind of lead us through this.
Sure.
Yeah, I went through it. Tom.
Yeah, I went through it.
I had trouble opening some of the attachments, so I don't know if anybody else did. But...
No, I didn't know.
No, I was all set with it.
All right, well, I guess I'm the dummy. I'll take the blame. But why don't you start us off with the project so I don't misspeak and say the wrong thing.
The property is 197 Neck Road. It's a 31.5 acre parcel, of which over 28 acres has been, the development rights have been conveyed. There's an existing single family home on that property with an adjacent barn, not attached, but adjacent. The house was constructed in 1730, thereabouts. So it's historic, and it certainly is doesn't meet all of the codes that we have now for new construction. Mrs. Neville is she has some health issues. She's fallen several times trying to negotiate the narrow hallways and the stairs and that sort of thing. And she would like for her daughter and her daughter's children to move in with her so she can have some assistance. In order to do that, we have to put an addition on. The addition is approximately 740 square feet. And that would be located as far from the pond as we can and still connect to the house so that we have some continuity between that. There's several things that are going to come out of this. One, we have to do the environmental review statement because we're in the watershed of Nonquit Pond. We will also have to go to zoning because we have we're going to be within 200 feet of the pond with a small portion of the addition. Right now, the house is approximately 155 feet from the pond. Existing lawn between the house and the roadway. On being on the south side of the roadway, the house being on the north side of the roadway. There's an existing septic system serving the property. It's designed for 3 bedrooms. In looking at it, the system is within 200 feet of the pond. Installed in 2018. I guess if they had known what was going on, they'd have had the designer push the septic system a little further away. We've gone to DEM. We've gotten approval on a new septic system, a replacement septic system that will be approximately 300 feet from the pond. It's actually outside of the, it's not outside of the watershed per the watershed maps, but it's outside of the watershed as a drop of rain falls on the property, and the water where the new septic system would go to the north as a other side of a slight ridge that's behind the house. We're proposing to replace the existing septic system with a brand new septic system. The new addition will be 180 feet from the pond versus the 155 that the house is now. And with the design, we've incorporated a stormwater treatment system to collect the runoff off the new addition, and it's diverted to a rain garden. Will recharge, post a direct runoff, and some purification of the stormwater. The narrative is fairly long, and it follows the format that the town requests. A lot of prohibitions in the watershed, which I've alluded to, and I can go through them with you if you'd like, or I can no underground oil storage, no excess fuels or oils contaminated or hazardous materials. I don't know if you want me to go through all that. I'd be happy to do that, but I don't want to.
Let's see if we have any questions now, and then we
Okay.
can move on if we need that. One question I have, I don't really know the property. Is this a farm or is it just residential? Because you mentioned a barn and all this extra acreage.
It's residential, Tom. It's residential.
Okay.
I know the property very well.
It's
I only live down the road from it.
it's to the west of where the Nonquit school is. It's on,
Right.
the pond comes right into.
So more towards the Secundit River from that.
Correct.
Okay.
Would be the next, I believe it's the next house after that, but
Bill
several.
Hibbett lives to the west of that. Bill Hibbett has a farm to the west of that. His land abuts the Neville property.
There's some fields that are hayed, but it's not an active farm. At one point it may have been, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, as long, Bill, I've been on this road for almost 50 years now,
Okay.
and it's never been farm in per se. They might have had corn in there because I did hunt there. They had corn in there before the Hibbett farm was built, but that's about it.
And when you mentioned the acreage was protected or used some sort of word, does that mean there's like a conservation easement on the
That's
majority
correct.
of it?
Yeah,
That's correct. On 28 of the 33 acres.
nothing can be done with it, Tom.
Okay.
That was Lucinda Peckham's wishes. I think Bill agrees with that, right, Bill?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Anybody else have questions at this point or any clarification?
What is that, north of the road that you're talking about?
It's on the
On the
north side
north
of Neck
side.
Road. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And they own a little bit to the south. There's like a border to the pond a bit. Is that what?
No, that's not theirs. They don't own on the other side of the street.
Okay. They're completely on the, yeah.
They're entirely on the north side, and then the pond is almost at the roadway
Right.
near the house, and then it starts to veer away and head.
Okay. So I guess what I would ask, what do you see as maybe the biggest potential environmental impact of what they're proposing? And I guess how is it being minimized?
So we have a septic system that's certainly within the watershed and pretty close to the system. We're in the process. We're going to be, as part of this project, moving that septic system so it's over 300 feet away from the pond and outside of what would be normal watershed. So I think we're addressing that issue. The addition.
Was the original one failing or not functional in some way, or
No, it was just
being expanded?
It was just replaced in 2018, but
Okay.
because it's so close to the pond and we needed to increase it by 1 bedroom, we're replacing the entire septic.
Okay.
The The other issue from the new impervious surface is we're going to treat any of the stormwater from that new addition. It's going to go into a rain garden. It's going to recharge. It's going to filter. So any of the particulate pollutants might be on the roof, the bird droppings, things like that are not going to just run overland to the pond. They'll be directed through a downspout gutter collection system into the rain garden. During construction, we're going to have silt fence, silt sock, erosion control, so that there's no sedimentation or potential erosion that could impact. It is all lawn between the house and the street. There's lawn between the house and the barn. We're not going to have to remove any vegetation, short of grass and some landscaping in order to put the addition on.
Okay.
So I think we've tried to address all of the potential environmental problems.
Or just impacts, right? Not necessarily problems, yeah.
Potential impacts.
Right, yeah. Okay. Well, Richard, you live near there. I'd be interested to hear your comments.
Well, the only thing I would add is that, Nonquit School, we've been down that road for almost 50 years. And everything Bill said in some respects is actually an improvement over what it was.
Okay.
And, Nonquit Pond, not for anything, but the pond is in the worst kind of shape in the state. I mean, I think that's very well known. Probably more from the geese and probably more from the farm runoffs of years and years ago before they became stricter with the pesticides for the potato field. So I don't really see any issue here. I knew Lucinda very well. I take care of her cemetery across from my property. And she was very careful to keep that land pristine in the sense that there was going to be no development. So I don't see any problem, Tom.
Okay.
I think in the whole big picture, it's fair to Penny and her family, and end of story.
Okay. Mr. Malinsky, you wanted to comment. I guess I interrupted you, so go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just curious. I was going to ask Bill, what is the sewer pump takes the effluent out of the tank to the leaching field and it shoots it essentially up a hill, essentially? Is that
That's correct.
Yeah.
There's an existing septic tank and pump that will handle the existing house. The new addition will have its own septic tank and pump, and it will pump it over the ridge and into the new leaching field that will serve the entire house.
Okay, that's good. Interesting. Thank you.
Bill, have they ever had any problems with their well? Do you know?
No. We asked that question. Well, there's actually two wells on. There's a dug well and there's a drilled well. And that was one of the questions, was location of the septic system got a little tight. We asked about, possibly drilling a new well to make the septic system location a little simpler. And they do have a good well and they haven't had any problems with it. We were asked to try and continue to use that well.
Okay. Some dogs got a question.
I need a translation, though, on that one. I didn't quite get it.
Yep. Okay.
I think that was it
It's
sounds pretty
sibling
good.
rivalry. Yeah, there they go again.
Okay.
I read through everything and I didn't see any problems with it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Brenda, any comments or questions or?
Well, I was really, I know that Richard lives very near to the property, so I guess I was hoping to hear. Well, I'm glad I heard from him because he feels like the voice of knowledge for me. So if he says that he doesn't see an issue, then I'm not familiar with the property, but I don't have any objections.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Smith on this? All right. Do we want to make a motion?
I only have one, Tom. What's the next one, Bill? What's the next move on this?
So we've applied to the planning board for our environmental review statement. Once we've gone to the planning board, we'll be going to the zoning board or the work within 200 feet of the
pond, yeah.
Yeah.
So when is the planning board meeting? Is that in July or is that June or when?
So I believe their next meeting is the first Tuesday in July.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that we're on their agenda.
Right, we'll be able to get, it sounds like, people are pretty satisfied with this, so we'll take a vote in a second, but we can get you a letter before that as we've done.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion then on this particular ERS?
I'll make it, Tom.
I'll second it.
The motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the ERS for this property? Going once, going twice, hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, it sounds to me unanimous, nobody opposed. Okay, sir, I've got a letter to write and I'll send you electronically and then follow up with a paper one for you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's always good.
Liz, hope you feel better.
Yes.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye now. Okay, that brings us to the second item under new business, which is also kind of related to what we just heard. This is a notice that I got from the RIDEM, Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. They're going to hold a virtual meeting on Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021, from 3 to 5 p.m. to present an overview of a draft water quality restoration study known as a total maximum daily load for 9 drinking water supply reservoirs owned by the city of Newport. That includes, of course, Nonquit Pond. The meeting will provide an opportunity for DEM to present the draft study and to obtain input from stakeholders and the public. The meeting represents the start of a 45-day public comment period, which will end on Friday, August 6th, 2021. So if you can't make it and you want to say something, you can, I think, send electronic comments to them or written comments via a letter. And then it goes on about the virtual meeting. Again, if somebody's interested in this, let me know. I can forward this email to you with all the contact information, how to get on the virtual meeting and such. It's something I'm going to try to go to attend it to see what they're doing. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Tom. What's the date on that?
23rd of June, 3 to 5 p.m. Virtual meeting. Yeah.
And what is and just give me the gist in English, what it really means.
I think they've done a study of all of the ponds that supply water to Newport that Newport owns, one of which is Nonquit. There's a couple down in Little Compton. The rest are in Portsmouth, I think, or and down
Right.
Beach, First Beach, and all that. Yeah. And
So
all of them have problems, and they're trying to fix them. So this is their report.
Well, we all know how bad Nonquit is. I mean, Newport won't even pump from there because it's so expensive to clean the water.
Right. So they're doing these total maximum limits, especially on phosphorus, apparently. And they'll go over what the limits are and how they develop them and things of that sort. It also says
Newport
that. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Tom. You can go.
I was going to say that they also said that there's going to be there's an introduction to the quote Aquidneck Island Watershed Plan that will also be presented during the meeting, and that doesn't really affect us because I think that's for those little ponds around Raytheon and the ones that are down by First Beach. But they also own a couple on our side of the river.
Yes.
Do they own the Watson Pond in Little Compton? That's I think it's Watson Pond.
Yes.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, that's that one. Yeah, because
That
that's
pipeline
right.
goes underneath the Seconic River.
As does the Nonquit one, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, Tom, they just don't pump Nonquit because it's just so bad.
Right. And they spent a lot of money in the last few years upgrading their treatment facilities near Raytheon because they're having all these problems. Yeah. So they had to spend an awful lot of extra money to keep the water quality up to what it needed to be.
I don't know how. The only question I would have is when's the last time that they tested that water? You know, I don't know. I do know that the reports on it from Trish were very negative. You know, I don't know if you guys recall it. pond was in tough shape. Between the
The
geese,
septic system,
no, it was
that
between the
area where-
geese, Tom, the flocks of geese that have been, they're living there like chickens, and they're droppings,
Well,
I think to a degree, maybe
Yeah.
years.
And they're
back.
non-migratory, right?
Yeah, but Tom, they're living there
yeah,
forever.
That's what I said.
not.
No, I said they're non. They don't leave. They
No,
stay
no,
there
they
year-round. Yeah.
don't. I mean, I hear them all the time.
yeah, those are the lazy geese. They stay around. Always along.
Ever since they curtailed gunning pretty much in that entire area, the geese just stay here.
I wonder if that's there. You know, there's a massive flock of geese that I see down by the Navy base,
Oh,
and
sure.
then that golf course, and you know, any
And
big grassy
Raytheon,
open
too.
area. I wonder if that's the same one and it just flies around at different things in Newport County, or is there
Well-
a group that just lives there that's local to Nonquit?
Well, that I don't know, but I mean, especially in the fall and the winter, that pond, I mean, they cackle all night long. I mean, unbelievable. So I think that's really one of the big problems. They just don't get chased away.
Well, I think that the gist of this is that they've done this study now that to how to try to restore some of the water quality there, and they're looking for comments on the draft study, which they will present the details of. And I suppose
So they ought to open up. They ought to open up gunning along that shore, and they'd have less geese for a while. I don't
that
know
could
how
be a
Peter-
comment from the public.
Well, you're asking, but most people would say, "What? Shoot them pretty birds?" What can I say? Obviously, Brenda don't agree with that.
They used to have didn't they used to have a policy for swans of like shaking the eggs so they wouldn't hatch to
Yes, they
reduce
did
the
that too.
number of birds?
I can
They used
remember
to
when
blame
they
them
used to
for
do that.
problems, but
Yeah,
you don't see
But-
too many swans, right?
no, there's a few, but they don't do anything for geese, as far as I know.
So all these Canadian snowbirds are staying.
Absolutely. And more, and they come, and the truth of the matter is, it's more and more of them, from what I can see.
Yeah. I wonder if they're close to kind of crowding out native birds and being a pest.
You mean like cormorants or something, or?
Well, you know, the rabbits you see around here, I'm sad to admit, are all the English bunnies, and the local bunnies are really nearly extinct, aren't they?
Oh,
And
right,
so-
the New England cottontails, right?
Right. So I'm wondering, are the Canada geese close to crowding out native birds by, you know, they're loud, they're noisy, they poop everywhere. Are they destroying, because a red-winged blackbird is a ground layer, do they destroy habitat for ground-laying birds? Like, I don't know, but I mean, I know that they are really on the rise, and I know they destroy golf courses.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
They
Try to
can be
walk.
kind of aggressive too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Try
yeah.
to walk, try to walk in the Polish cemetery up behind Stop and Shop there somewhere, and you have to, if you don't watch where you're walking, it's all bird doo doo.
Mhm.
Slip and
We've had that
slide.
problem at the base, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they put out coyotes in the field there, and the
Right.
birds are sitting on the coyotes.
They got used to them.
That was,
A lot
We had
of
a
them
that
that
was
did.
the raging out. And that never worked.
No,
Yeah. Tom, you might remember there was a story, not with the current captain, but a couple back, where the guy came into our base and said he thought he had inherited the saddest, most unfriendly group of workers he'd ever seen, because everybody walks around just looking at the ground. No one waves or says hi to anybody. And then he found out the reason why is that they're trying to avoid stepping in goose droppings.
absolutely.
And then he understood.
Yeah, it's not just the stepping in them, it's the landing on your bum in them.
Yeah, well, all right.
Yep.
Well, that might be an interesting comment to see how much they've taken that into account for this plan, because if that's a big part of what's hurting Nonquit, I think they've tested the water for the chemistry, but they might not have said as much
Well,
about
like,
what's really
yeah.
triggering it.
I
Yeah.
think the question too is, when was the last time was it tested? No.
I don't know, but presumably they would say that in this study that they're going to go over.
Now, unless anything's changed, the potato farm has the right, and they have a pump house there, that he can pump water from Nonquit onto his fields if there's a drought. That's been in effect, I think, since the 20s.
But aren't his fields
They're to the
down
south.
gradient from the pond, so they don't drain really into it that much, right?
Well, no, where I used to go gunning and we had blinds, that big field that's near the bond, one of the bonds, that field runs down to the creek. That creek runs into the Heron Run, that then runs into Nonquit Pond.
Yeah.
And I
Isn't that
think,
bracket?
if I'm not mistaken, that creek, I used to seine heron in there with Freddie Peckham. And that creek is closed to shellfishing because of the runoff from the farm. And there used to be a lot of clams in there, beautiful clams going back a long time. And you can't dig in there now. I'm talking like soft shell clams.
Yeah.
And anyways, that's where the problem lies. It's all that runoff over the years. Before, I don't know what the rules are now on pesticides for potato.
They must have tightened them up, I would imagine.
Well, I would
Yeah, I would think
assume
so.
they have, but then again, I still see Roundup being advertised on TV. So what does that tell
Oh,
you?
yeah, it does. Yeah.
There have been a lot of lawsuits against Roundup.
Oh,
that
yeah.
companies lost.
Oh yeah, no kidding. But they're still advertising it, Tom. Have they improved it? I
I
don't know.
think there is a new formula.
Well, that may be, Brenda. I just don't know.
Yeah, because they lost so many lawsuits.
Yeah, you're right.
I pull them out by hand. I'm a chemist, but I don't use herbicides. I just don't think it's worth the risk.
Right.
All right. Any further discussion on this? If anybody wants the details, let me know, and I will forward the email that has the call-in information and all that to you.
All right.
Does anyone know anything if what may be going on with Stafford Pond? Did they do equivalent assessment, or is that they don't care about Stafford Pond since they let boats on it, power boats, and
Well, that's the next
just-
thing that's come up. That's the
Yeah.
next item on the agenda is Stafford Pond update. And we can
oh,
start.
I didn't even. I'm looking at the agenda right here. I'm sorry.
Wow, that's a coincidence. All right. The reason I put that on there was that just to remind people that they did get the approval and I think the money and all that to do that alum treatment that Tricia
Right.
talked about a while
Oh,
back.
wow.
Yeah,
So-
I saw.
Wow.
They had an
That was
article on
quick.
Yeah, it was quick. That's right.
And again, that's supposed to tie up the phosphorus, I believe, that it's in the sediment, but if you stir up the sediment, you release it and then you get algal bloom. So it's designed to precipitate it out and keep it down in the sediment. That's my understanding.
Who
Yeah.
pays for that, Tom? Is it the town or the state?
Definitely not the town.
No.
That's I think the state had some kind of a grant, or they got a grant somewhere to do that, because there have been issues with algal blooms there with the Stonebridge Water District. As many people know, if you are on town water, we get a mix of water from there and then from Fall River.
Yeah.
And actually, the more we get from Stafford, the better off we are, because it's a lot cheaper than what we pay for the Fall River side. So the mix, if we didn't have Stafford Pond, the water bills would probably double.
I mean, to answer Tom's question, I think since there's been no big motors and tournaments and et cetera,
Right.
you would have to assume that the pond may be slowly getting better.
Yeah, we fought that fight and really did get a lot of the boating off of it, which is good.
But did you see the Newport papers?
Yeah, you sent that, right?
Yeah,
Why
they're
don't you tell
cleaning
them
it
all
up
about-
so swimmers can go in safely.
Yeah, well, swimmers don't belong in there.
Well, all of a sudden, now they're being allowed.
In Stafford Pond.
Yep.
Well, they're not supposed to.
Unbelievable.
I am glad
Yeah,
I got well water.
Yeah.
You can, that
That's
article, if you look on Newport Daily News, right, you can look it up on the web. They have the article there on that.
Is
Yep.
that recent? Is that recent, Liz?
Yes,
Yes,
past couple of
very-
weeks.
I thought we had an ordinance where I thought we had.
I thought we did too.
If I go back to when we had the boat issue, I thought we was, you know, some of the people who objected and said, well, I've been swimming in there since my grandparent had the
Yep.
place, blah, blah, blah. But
Yep.
you're not supposed to swim in drinking water.
Nope.
I mean, if you did that in the Situate Reservoir or the North Watuppa, you'd get arrested.
Yeah, let me get the
That's
date
right.
for you. Yep, the title of it is Stafford Pond in Tiverton is about to get a lot cleaner. Yep, this was 6/10/21
Very recent, yeah.
was the article.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that. I know that there may be, it's just a weird situation because there's so many houses alongside it and people have been doing that for years.
Yeah, well, they thought they were entitled, Tom, for some reason, because, you know,
And now worst off is they've got it in the paper, so they're advertising so you can go swimming there.
The other thing-
maybe that should be addressed, Tom.
Yeah.
In some
Yeah.
way. I don't know.
Maybe a letter to the Secundit Times or something. I'll look into it a little bit more and see what the deal is. I
Well,
do
I
know
guess-
too.
I think Liz is right. I thought we had addressed that they shouldn't
Yeah.
be swimming in there.
Yeah, because the first line of this is, it was horrible last year, Steve Vallette said, of not being able to swim in Stafford Pond because of the blue-green algae blooms.
Yeah.
And
But
it's
it's
like,
okay-
you're not supposed to be in there anyway.
So,
So
it's
let's do
okay.
something that brings them back. Yeah.
So it's okay to swim in there with pee-pee and poo-poo.
Yep.
Okay.
Remember, we're being recorded here. Let's, all right.
Oh, well.
I don't want to get any
right.
complaints from the town management saying we're using the
Okay.
wrong language here. The other thing I was going to point out too is that the water treatment plant that Stonebridge operates is fairly old, and it really, you just wonder if it can filter out some of this stuff too. So the more we can keep the water in good shape, the better off we are. This is one of the downsides of having surface reservoirs, right? Because you have all these other issues that you have to address and potential contaminations. If it were like a big aquifer of the well field, the water quality tends to be a little better protected, but we don't have that. We have surface reservoirs. So we have to be vigilant all the time on that too. I just wish they had more of a program where they were buying up properties around there, because sometimes they come on the market and a lot of times then they just get sold and they get more houses right along the pond. There's really no program that I'm aware of where they try to buy the properties. Whereas if you look at Fall River, there's nothing around their reservoir. They own almost all
It's
the,
been that way. It's been that way forever, Tom.
you
Yeah,
know,
you can't walk around Fall Rivers Reservoir.
My
Somebody's
my
there in a
uncles
heartbeat.
my uncles used to fish in that North Watuppa.
right.
I was probably a baby, and they were catching fish 6 feet long. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so
let me
pristine.
see what
You
I'll
want-
see what I can find out about it, about the swimming.
If you want to look at something interesting, if anyone has ever looked at it, it's called the Environmental Working Group Tap Water Database. Latest update was 2019, and it shows and I just went to North Tiverton fire districts, and the contaminants detected were 9, which exceed the EWG's health guidelines out of 11 total contaminants. As an example, bromodichloromethanes, 162 times the EPA requirement. They believe
Wow.
it's that much more. Chloroform, 77 times. Chromium hexavalent, 3.9 times. It's just a very interesting database for all the water supplies around the United States. And
And
that's
what's the website?
all.
Yeah.
Was that?
What is the website again?
It's Environmental Working Group. It's ewg.org
Okay.
Newport.
/tapwater. I can put Newport in. Let me see what, I don't know, it's 02841 is Newark. I don't know what the Newport
I think
one is.
02840 is Newport's real
Okay, 0340. Let me go
Yeah.
back to this here.
zip
I just
code.
looked at, no, the North Tiverton Fire Department is here right now. Let me see, the beauty utility, and the additional utilities in the area, Stonebridge, Fall River, Portsmouth. Let's look at Portsmouth because it's here. 13 contaminants out of 36 total exceed the limits. And
So
this has
Newport Daily
arsenic.
News is saying the pond is good to swim in.
Well, yeah.
I guess that's
For
just
somebody.
flavoring, isn't it?
You really have to look at this. This is quite amazing, this database. And EWG is showing they contend that they have standards because most of these that they're concerned about are potential cancer risks. And so but it's all over. It's just incredible how our water supplies have been contaminated either through industrial waste. I would assume Tom could tell us better than me, but arsenic, yeah, that's general. But benzoate, pyrene, I don't know what that is.
The polycyclic aromatic.
Dibromo-dichloromethane. And there's a dibromo-dichloromethane potential effect on cancer 259 times. This is the Portsmouth database.
Yeah, this is pretty scary. As a matter of fact, Tom,
Yeah,
if you
take
were
a
gonna
look at
write,
it.
if you were gonna answer
Take a
that
look.
letter, you maybe just put them statistics in to put them in their place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
This
bet
is
they
very
didn't look at
scary.
that site.
Well, the thing that we have to think about too is that again, the North Tiverton water is a mixture from Stafford and North Watuppa from Fall River. So we don't know which.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If you look
I
at
guess the question is, since
North-
it's a mixture, then we don't really know which source is contaminated or
Yeah,
both.
that's good.
Well, that's true,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fall River does have equivalent type. I can't do it by memory, but I looked at that too. And I looked at different towns. So it's just interesting. You should take a look at it. It's quite scary if you look at it. So it's
The other thing, though, that
EWG.org.
I've been to some of the meetings because I'm interested in the water quality, and there are some funny rules about how they sample too that sometimes give you weird numbers. Like I remember they were required to do some sort of sampling from the tank on the casino. There's a tank there to store water for fighting fires.
Yep.
Right.
It can leach out stuff into the tank and all that, and it sits there. Sometimes it's not used for a long time. And that was where the official site was or something to test the water, not the pipes. And so it's not necessarily, indicative of what people are drinking. It's been contaminated because of where it's stored and where it sits sometimes too, but you just never know. And we've got to be vigilant because that's, water is if we have to get it bottled or we don't have good access to it, talk about cost shooting up.
Even the bottled water isn't trustworthy.
Well, yeah. All right. Now I can't eat, I can't drink.
No, you can't. No. And you can't swim in Stafford Pond.
I can
Some of these, I was saying some of these chemicals can be mitigated with a activated carbon filter.
Right. Because
that will absorb it. What was Newport at 02840?
Yeah, I think that's the Newport zip code.
All right, I actually got that back again so I can
I
go
think
back.
841 is the naval base.
Yeah, and they use City of Newport, View Utility. I'll just say, interesting, 11 exceed, out of 35 contaminants, 11 exceed the EWG health guidelines. So they have quite a list of other contaminants. They'll go through, you can click again, you see, but they actually have, total trihalomethanes, which I believe is a byproduct of chlorination.
Yes.
They're 352 times the federal limits that they believe. It's too much by 352 times.
Wow.
I knew Newport.
Excuse me, is that because the chlorination, they're trying to improve the water and they're using so much of it?
Well, no, I don't know. It's just that I remember Newport Newark had reports, water reports, I remember looking at them, and they would publish it every so often, showing the levels, and trihalomethanes were always kind of listed as being a higher, and they try to, it's part of the chlorination process, because sometimes in the wintertime in particular, where at Newark, when you put the water on, you almost have to have a gas mask on. It's so high with chlorination. I always noticed that. I always felt it was like that.
Those
And the other
chemicals
thing,
they're a product of chlorination interacting with organics that are in the water.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah,
the methane
that's
part
right.
comes from. That's part of the organic, and then they react with the chlorine, and you get those.
Mm.
So if
Right,
you've got a lot of
acetate.
organics in your water, that's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
Is interesting. The other thing too is interesting is a lot of countries in Europe have banned fluoride. I've been listening to different reports and read some stuff, and fluorides are not really, in terms of the Europeans, they don't allow it. It's not really necessary, and I've listened to reports, some people saying that scientists would say that it's not a good thing to be putting in the water, nor should we be drinking them.
Well, brush your teeth with it.
Well, yeah, but you can buy toothpaste that does not have fluoride in it too, if you don't.
Yeah,
want.
no,
You're supposed to spit it out, not swallow it.
Oh, really?
Yes, correct. But the issue is with children too.
Right.
Some of the children just swallow it. They're getting double doses plus all the drinks, the sodas that are all made
Correct.
by municipal water, plus some parents will give them fluoride tablets, and a dentist want to put it on your teeth every time you go, even as an adult.
Yeah.
So,
You're right. The issue is
kind of,
fluoride F minus is toxic in even small quantities. And they used to fluorinate the water before people had fluorinated toothpaste, and that was everywhere. But now that pretty much everybody that brushes their teeth uses a fluorinated toothpaste, the case for fluorinating the water all the time, I think, doesn't exist. And we could be better off not doing it. And then that would also save some cost and expense for these companies, because they have to buy the chemical, they have to monitor it, blah, blah, blah. So there's a real case to, like you said, I think there's only about 10 or 15 countries in the whole world that fluorinate their water. And
sure, even in, and different provinces in Canada, some do and some don't.
Right.
They took the European, and if they, so I don't know why it's going on anymore, in all honesty. But it's big industry telling them when it's necessary, and people don't understand, nor do they care to look at any other type of studies that say it's not good for you.
Right.
Even some dentists, they think it's correct. They believe it should be in the water, and they're not thinking as scientists. They just believe what industry says is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Is that 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed say that?
Yeah, that's right. But do look at that. It's a scary report. It's just amazing. I find it. They'll ask you to donate. I've given to them, but you don't have to. You can bypass it. You could just put it through the X and say, don't donate. No, you don't want to give it. You can go right to the database.
Okay.
If you have any problems, send me an email. I'll send you the address, but it's ewg.org/tapwater.
Okay.
And they'll ask you to put the zip code in.
All right, Tom. Sounds like sounds like it's safer to drink beer and wine.
At least you won't feel the pain.
Yeah.
You have the database. In
Okay.
the same website, excuse me. Didn't mean to interrupt. I said in the same database, you can look at that dirty dozen of pesticide-laden foods. They update it every year. And they tell you which ones are so contaminated that you should buy organic. Like celery is always on a high list. And there's also the cleanest ones that you could still use, like onions. You don't have to worry about those as such. Or cabbage, because you remove the outer leaves. So it's an interesting, the Dirty Dozen. They publish that every year.
Okay.
An update.
Dirty dozen, huh? Oh.
Yeah,
Now I
the
really
Dirty Dozen. And And yeah, really dirty. And there's the clean ones that they say it's okay that you don't have to worry about them.
Probably horseradish. Nothing
Not
can
that
get.
Yeah, that's right. Not that I'm paranoid, my friend. No, not that I'm paranoid.
Okay.
I just
All right. That's very interesting. Thanks.
No worries.
Next, let's see. Just move on briefly here. Next one is plans for the Country Day at Pardon Grave. From what I've heard, they're basically starting to plan how to have that live again because of all the vaccines and the virus being down. So we need to start thinking about potentially, what we might want to highlight for a little table or a booth again, like we traditionally do. There's still quite a bit of time, but it'll go fast. So just put that there as a placeholder.
I've talked to a number of people in this area, Tom, and there's some concern down in this neck of the woods because of the wells that people should start to think about conserving a little bit more than they normally do. I mean, Four Corners is a classic example. We have all those businesses all tied in, and you got that new groundswell, and it looks wonderful. He's got all these lovely plants, and all you see of them watering. And it's sort of like, we've always respected our well. We have to. And I know neighbors who have gone dry.
Wow.
And I think there's an issue that maybe in some respect you should make them aware that the well can run dry.
So maybe work on something with the, what do they call that? The group that does the testing and the stuff.
URI.
Yeah, URI or even Department of Health, because you can learn how to test your water and.
Yeah, I don't have her name on the tip of my tongue, but she might be something.
Okay.
She might be somebody that could be part of this.
It's all over, Richard. I see the things, people watering their lawns because they feel it's necessary, and they're drawing the water table down. Look at what's happening now in Arizona, Utah, Washington State, Oregon, California, North Dakota, and I can't remember the other states. But the point is we're in trouble with the droughts that are going on now, and I suspect there'll be food shortages this winter where California can produce the foods we need. I'm not trying to be alarmist, but the same thing could happen here if we don't protect the water we have. We just don't throw it away like they do for no reason at all. But that's my personal opinion.
No, you're absolutely right, Tom. I couldn't agree with you more.
I used to travel to Los Angeles on work-related stuff, and they'd be watering lawns and this is a desert. And they're watering lawns in Orange County, and the water's going in the streets, going in the drains. It was incredible when I look at it. This is a desert reclaimed by having irrigation. It made no sense.
And it draws water from all over the state down to the LA basin.
Oh, it does.
They've got reservoirs up near Sacramento.
Yep. And now they're in big trouble because there's Lake Mead, I guess that's in California. I can't remember. I keep hearing it.
That's the one behind the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, that has actually dropped in capacity.
Yeah.
It all depends on the mountains and melting snow and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Well, currently it's at the lowest level they've seen, and they're very nervous now what's going to go on without having the water there like they need it. Because they had insufficient snow and rain, I guess, this past winter. So, I don't know.
Okay, well, that sounds like that's
you're right.
a big topic.
Yeah, and you're right, Richard. They got to protect it because, you could be drawing down the aquifer that's in the area because of the way they're building up or people wasting it and all the stuff like that. And it's shameful.
The URI, who used to give some seminars, if you recall, at the hall,
yes,
on testing your water and all of this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
She could be one that could give you a little bit of insight, but there is, My neighbor across the street, her well went dry, even though it was a shallow well, it went dry. And she had to get water from her neighbor. The Lima house that is west of me up on the hill, he had to do something with his well, make it deeper. He went dry. So I think, you know, when you look at all the activity at Four Corners with water, you need to make them aware that you just can't, you know, abuse it. That's all.
Okay.
And I think, Tom, you know, there was a couple of wells that went bad on the other side of Main Road at Four Corners. You recall that? The wells became contaminated. They had to drill a new well.
Hmm.
And whether or not that was from septic system, I probably was, but be that as it may, I think we're very fragile down here, and I think they have to be aware of it. In some
Can't
respects,
hurt, can only help.
in some respects, Four Corners is like one huge septic system. And all the wells, you know, they're connected to these businesses, and then you got the residents around it. So I think they should start paying attention. We'll never have town water down here. That'll never happen.
Yeah,
So
no doubt about that.
I think it's something that needs to be addressed, and it might be a subject for the Pod and Grade thing.
Okay.
I mean, we're supposed to be conservation, and I think that's a big one.
Right.
Respect.
Allison McCann.
That's her name, right? I was looking for her card. I couldn't find it.
Well, I looked it up. That's why I remembered it after. So it wasn't my memory. Yeah, private well
So,
testing and
you know,
production.
I mean, you're always looking for some kind of content for the Pod and Grade, and that could be one.
Yeah, I think it'd be important to do that.
All right, the next thing down on my ongoing monitoring of the truck traffic, because I walk the sidewalks on Main Road, which is the next thing below it too, but there's still an awful lot of traffic by these either trailer tanker trucks or the smaller trucks that don't have a trailer, constant. If you don't think about it, you don't see it because you're not out there a long time. You think, oh, it's once in a while they're just delivering to houses. But I think we are the source of at least heating oil for the whole area because of those tanks that are down by Bay Street, you know, down near the border with Fall River.
Right.
And a lot of that, I think a lot of it is actually going to Aquidneck Island. The trucks fill up there and then they drive through, you know, some of our roads between there and Main Road, then they get on Main Road and go to 24. So we have a lot of oil and hydrocarbons moving through our town. And my real concern is if we have an accident, if the truck crashes and it starts to leak, do we have the right things on hand in town to respond to that in a quick manner? The little trucks carry approximately 3,000 gallons, up to 3,000 gallons, and the tractor trailers can be 12,000. And I don't know if our fire department has enough even to handle a partial leak from a small truck. If we have to wait for help from, I don't know where, to come, by then it could all go down the drain, then it's in the bay, or then it's in a stream or something like that, or heaven forbid into Stafford Pond or something. We really need to be, I think, a little more vigilant and make sure that we're caring about that, since we get the tax benefits of that stuff, whatever that may be, but we have all this traffic that puts us at risk. And I think we are like a regional supply point for various other places. And most of this stuff moves by truck these days. So still going to follow up with a letter to the fire chief, just asking his opinion of, you know, are we ready for a leak or a spill or an accident? And, you know, how big of a spill could we handle locally before we need serious help from somebody? And where would that somebody be? And what would the response time be for that? I mean,
Well,
maybe Fall River
That's
can
good
do it. I don't know.
Tom,
good
if I
point.
may,
You know what?
I think you got a legitimate question, argument, etc. But it seems to me that we're sitting more on a potential problem with all these underground tanks, which nobody has done anything about. Which Tom spent an awful lot of time putting together, and as far as I know, it died a slow death on the vine.
Tom, were you able to help
One-
that guy figure out if there was one in his property or the property he was going to buy?
I sent him all the information. I did not see anything on a property of his. I sent it to him. I unless he got it in junk mail, but he never responded to me. I sent him the 3 charts that I got from the state showing all of the known tanks that were listed. I sent him the Tiverton tanks list that was done in early 80s, I believe. He never responded.
Okay,
I
I'll
mentioned
follow
your
up on
name.
that.
Yeah, and
This
if he
is me.
doesn't have it, I'll send it again. Yeah, I just never.
I'm
I
not
actually
mistaken.
walk by that property when I do my walks.
If I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, Tom, I think we have a resident down here on the on Neck Road that goes to the south when you go around the bend, way past the Neville property, that has an underground tank there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's 3,000 or 4,000 gallons. The last
Correct.
in that chart that I have to
I mean,
refresh
so-
my memory, but I think it's that.
I mean, this is an ongoing issue, and I think, you know,
Yep.
all these trucks are definitely a problem. I mean, it's a good question to ask the chief. I'd be surprised if he tells you that he can handle it,
Yeah.
but
The
again,
As an
interesting-
example, I think last time we talked, I asked, like Tom brought it up. I didn't know about it, but the point was, if someone got in an accident on Sousa Road and the fuel oil started going down the road to the that development area, how quickly could that get to the river? Quite quickly, I suspect. And the town would have to have some absorbing blankets or something, whatever they could do, and
Right.
it may be very difficult for them. It wouldn't be hard not to see possible accidents near Sousa Road and that development. The villages, is that what they call it? The villages?
Yeah.
yes, that's the villages.
Yeah.
But even a
Yeah,
regular truck with diesel in it, the diesel tank on a truck,
Sure.
if that got into an accident, that could leak 20 gallons easily, and doesn't take much to
Sure.
contaminate water.
Some of those diesel trucks have like 150-gallon tanks
Yeah,
on them, but
it's
the
big.
type that have the dump trucks and stuff like that.
I mean, we keep having this yearly argument for some reason that we need this horrendously expensive hook and ladder truck for some reason. But in my mind, if we're going to get a specialized fire vehicle, I think we need like a hazmat one, because we have all this drinking water stuff, and we're responsible for it. And then we also, we apparently are an oil delivery hub. And then we've got the tanks, like you said, that are buried. If you find one of those that leak, what do we do? And
No, it's a
Richard,
good
the
point.
interesting thing about this recent question is that the guy, he's trying to buy a house, and the owners, as I recall, showed him photos that they had underground oil tanks or tank, and it was dug up because they had a photo of it. But the town apparently didn't have a record. He checked the fire department. I'm not sure where you go to check. I think it's maybe the clerk, whatever, but they couldn't find a record of there being a tank, yet there are pictures of this tank, he claims, being removed. I don't know how you tell the difference between its installation and removal in photos, but unless you see the tank on the ground, after it's been taken out. But if we can't seem to validate that, that means the databases are more messed up than we think, if there's actual photos of it being removed and we didn't even know it was there to begin with.
I think if it was less than, I forgot the number that I had in the slides, but 1,200 gallons, then it's usually the fire department that oversees the removal. If a leak is present when the fire department is there, the state is automatically pulled in. Anything above that amount, the state would have to be called in to oversee it.
Okay.
So it's a good possibility. Did anyone ever call a fire department when they took it out? It could have been some guy like DeMello who just, I'll take that out and get rid of it for you. I shouldn't say anything about a dead person, but he was the one who called me a dope at the meeting that I was complaining about underground storage tanks, Bobby DeMello. So,
Okay.
so that's it. Who knows if they,
Well, there's
Paul,
no question,
could have been-
Tom, to both Toms, this is a very precarious situation, and I think nothing will happen until something happens. You know, it's the same old thing.
Yeah. And the
Right,
biggest
yeah.
thing too, Richard,
Go ahead.
anything past Bogomash Road, do you think they'll ever get water there with all the ledge and all that? It'd be cost prohibitive. And who's going to, where's it going to come from, the money for that, if it had to happen? So that's why I wish action could be taken where it's made sure that nothing's underground anymore.
Right.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what
like
to
I
say.
said, until some catastrophe, then they'll get on the stick, and
Yeah, that's when it happens, when it's too late.
it's always the way.
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing I put under new business was the main road sidewalk maintenance and repair policies. Again, I've noticed a real big uptake in people that are walking themselves or walking their dogs, or people that are out there, which is great. The more we get out, move around, get exercise, get the fresh air, I think that's fantastic. But the maintenance of the sidewalks has really been a lot left to be desired. They don't seem to trim the vegetation. They allow cuts into it to access either water, gas, or sewerage, and they don't necessarily make the people that did the cut replace in kind. There are areas where it's just dirt. There are areas where they just did asphalt instead of the concrete. And so I called the state, and I was saying, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, what's going on here? Why are these people allowed to destroy something and they don't have to rebuild it? And what they told me was kind of amazing. They said that, well, it's not our fault. We have a construction and maintenance agreement with the town of Tiverton for the main road sidewalks. And you need to get a copy of that from the town. And I was just amazed that here again, we somehow volunteered to spend money taking care of somebody else's property when we don't have the money to take care of what we actually own and build and maintain. I mean, if this is state stuff, why on earth would we sign on board to, agree to maintain and construct anything? It's crazy. So I'm in the process of getting a copy of that so I can be a little more informed about what the rules are. But I'd also like to know, when do they trim the vegetation? Because in some areas there's poison ivy that grows alongside. Other areas there are branches that hang down that, they're, even if you're small, you'd have to bend over not to run into them. So I think we just need to take a little better care of this infrastructure that now a lot of people are starting to use and enjoy, and make sure that we do preserve it and we do keep it in good shape, because I think it is a big asset for people that live in the north end of town like I do, to be able to walk on that. It's a lot safer than walking alongside a road, and we just want to take care of it better and make sure that anybody that does dig up a portion puts it back in place. I mean, there are areas that have granite curbing. There's some areas that have concrete curbing. There's other areas that have no curbing. And what is the rule? And are some people getting away with not having to install what's actually required? So
This is basically state. Is this state oriented, Tom?
the state owns all of that, but somehow we're responsible for the maintenance by
Okay.
agreement we signed, which is, it sounds weird to me. I mean, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, if you had infinite money or something, okay, fine. But like I said, we have trouble maintaining our own roads and infrastructure. And now we decide to take on something that otherwise would have to be done by the state. And the state does do some things, like they have this machine that sweeps it periodically. And it's like a big rotating brush attached to a vehicle.
That's the state picking up the sand.
Right, but they also do it onto the sidewalks too, and it picks up some of the accumulated dirt. But in other cases, the dirt has encroached, and now the sidewalks may be only 2/3 the width it should be, because there's plant and dirt now on parts of it, and they should really clean that off. And there's other areas, like when they put in telephone poles, sometimes the telephone pole company doesn't clear up the debris, the rock, the dirt, and then they don't cement around it, and then you get plant growth and God knows what growing out of there too. So it could really be tightened up. I think we signed something, then we just ignored it. And I'd really like them to try to spend a little more time taking care of it, or at least going after the people that caused the problem and make them fix it, restore it back to the way it was before they dug it up. That only seems fair. So anyway, I'm going to follow up on that. And by the way, I still do pick up trash at least once a week along the ways there. It's a non-ending job because there seems to be a lot of stuff there. Lots of lottery tickets, lots of little nip bottles for alcohol and your trash. And a lot of these masks. I'll be really glad when this mask mandate's just gone, because that's ballooned as part of the trash alongside the roads. People just, I guess, tear it off and just throw it there. So hopefully that'll cut down a bit more as more people don't need to wear them. Anyway, I'm off the pedestal. That's it. No, no
that's
more
fine. No, it's a good point.
It's
Now we can go to the next
interesting.
thing where Richard can rant and rave a bit. Aquaculture in Tiverton.
Yeah, well, you know my feelings.
Yeah, apparently there is a public commenting period or meeting. I guess enough people were riled up about the Bowen one, which is the one at Sepauwett that's just to the south of where the creek enters Secaunet River.
So did they kill that, Tom?
It's still in the permitting process, but enough people objected apparently that they have to hold a public meeting on it and get comments. So I think it's next week. If I get the details, I'll send them to you and anybody else that's interested.
Yeah, right.
The other thing, though, I found is, though, like we talked about before, they have that new one that's proposed for Gull Cove over in Portsmouth. That's that last area right before you get across the bridge where you take that little exit to Escape Bridge and all that. That there's one there. But then I found there's a new one at Sepauwett, another one at Sepauwett down towards the north end of the property that's actually going to be in deeper water. So these will be cages that float. They'll have to be accessed by a boat, but it's seaward of another area that shows up on CRMC's map as being an aquaculture area that is in shallow water. So if all these get approved, then there's going to be 3 of these things in and around Sepauwett.
Yeah, it's just really getting out of hand.
I'm wondering if they just, they built out of the areas they can do in South County. Or
Well, it
Watershed,
might very well be,
called.
because it seems like they're coming over here to Tiverton.
Right.
And they tried it in Nonquit. I mean, right now you got 3 in Sepauwett. I mean, you got 3 in Spec Cove, and you got that new application. I mean, there will be no areas for any hand rakers to fish because it's all taken up. And the other
Well, not
thing,
only that, but kayakers, people that just want to enjoy the water, we're turning it into one huge aquaculture farm, bit by bit. So anyway, I'll send the details on that. But yeah, I think we in Newport County are being hit because they basically built out. There's, I think 3% was what the guy told me that they would allow coverage in any water body or area. So maybe they're reaching the limits over in South County, which pushes them in our direction. And of course, there's not too many places you can do it and that have public access and all that. So they're kind of.
Well, I think politically they think it's easier in Tiverton because we usually bend over,
Right. So we got to show them that we're not a big just walkover for that, because otherwise we'll lose a lot of these areas. So anyway, I'm going to try to follow up on that if I can. But I think I said there's a public hearing or whatever they call a public hearing sometime next week.
And that's a Zoom again?
Presumably, yes, because all meetings in the state have to have that until that order is lifted by the governor. But I don't know if it's at night, during the day, or when it is yet. I got to look on the site again and see what they say about that.
I will say that the opening of the Providence River has taken the heat off the state because, there is, I mean, it's 1,900 acres. They'll never clean that area out, Tom. There's cohogs everywhere. And it's certainly going to be a shot in the arm. I mean, it's a conditional fishery and it's supposed to go till August. Any rain time we lose, they're going to add it at the end. So they're going to go pretty much probably into September. But most of the boats, the professionals, are pretty much catching their limit. And it's pretty, I mean, there's a lot of poundage coming into the state now when that river, when they're working that river.
Yeah, it must be like the good old days, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I dredged that years ago in the 60s with a dredge boat, and it's just everywhere you go. I mean, you just fill the rake.
Yeah, they all different sizes are really big.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. Some areas are more little necks and count and top necks, but overall, it's pretty decent mix.
So, wow, the state did something for its.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's taking the heat off the state.
You must have close to a heart attack. They did something to help for a change.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. They didn't do anything for years and years and years, and finally they are doing it now, and so nobody can bellyache, you know.
Yeah. Although I did see that there's a series of articles in the Projo about how the winter flounder is sort of migrating away now, so that's getting tougher.
Oh yeah, no, there's other issues, but
yeah,
some of that stuff is cycles too, Tom. I mean,
or temperature in the water.
Temperature in the water and what have you. There's no, I mean, you know, look, they're monitoring the great whites. There's 4
Yeah.
great whites now running from Long Island to the Cape, and one of them weighs 3,400 pounds. Talk about Big Bertha. This is a big animal. And they just tagged a juvenile right off of Rhode Island, which Long Island Sound has become a nursery. And the reason why is all the seals down in Monomoy and Chatham. It's a feeding frenzy down there. There's thousands of seals down there, and that's why the great whites are there. So this is all part of nature, you know. You're not going to change that.
Right.
You can monitor it, but again.
So Steven Spielberg should come back and do a new version of Jaws.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to make a mechanical shark this time.
Yeah, really.
You just attract this one with some bait.
But some of you're right about the fish population, and there's a big change coming for the lobstermen in Maine. They're trying to eliminate the up and down lines because of the whales. Right. It's a real serious problem. I think there's ways of solving it though, especially now with the electronic situation that we have with GPS and etc. I mean, you could almost set a trawl without up and down lines and then drag an anchor and pick it up because it's so accurate, you know. So I don't know what they're going to do, but it could eventually hurt all the lobstermen in Maine. And there's 4,000 fishermen up there that catch lobster. And it's a big industry. I mean, there's no question about it. We've got all kinds of issues, period. So we try to do our little part.
Okay. Okay, brings us to committee reports. Landfill recycling, anything?
Well, I called Rick Rogers a couple of weeks back because I've been doing a lot of trimming, and I've been bringing a lot of brush up to the landfill. And I was talking to Harry up there that pretty much runs the place. And we had a conversation, and I'm of the feeling that because when we cap the landfill, there's going to still be an area that we could still use for recycle. What we're doing now with brush and recycling. When I called Rick about it, I says, I think it's time to have a meeting, Rick. And he says, well, I agree with you. He says, but we're still waiting on the state, et cetera, et cetera. Whether or not we're going to get an extension, Tom, I don't know. I have a feeling we might, but I think we need to push for keeping the landfill part of the track for the brush situation in the town and for recycling. I mean, right now the town's belly aching about money, and it's going to cost money to do that at the industrial park, no matter how you cut it. So
And
I
that's
don't
going
know.
to be a transfer station anyway, too.
Correct. And until we have a meeting of the landfill committee and iron some of this stuff out and see exactly where we're going. I mean, the argument now is that the whole landfill it needs to be capped, and that may be true, but if there was enough area to do, but I mean, we have to have a place to bring all our brush and yard waste. Because, I mean, otherwise the town will look like a dump.
Well, what do other towns do? Do other towns truck it to the central landfill?
Well, I'm not an expert on that, but you notice a lot of these towns, a lot of the people put them into these recyclable brown bags. Put them on the tube. So I'm not sure what they do with that stuff. I mean, I haven't followed up on it.
Yeah.
I'm only going by what we do.
But the volume of it is such that that would be a non-stop effort to keep trucking it to Johnson if that's where it has to go. Yeah, I think there's even more of that than trash sometimes.
Correct. So I don't know. It's up to Rick and Steve Rise to call a meeting, but
Okay.
I did make my, I made my comment to them. So.
Okay. Any tree updates that we know of?
No, nothing really. Unfortunately, where the didn't have meetings because of COVID, and
Okay.
so
Is
any
anybody,
people that are on. What was that?
have we checked to see how the trees are doing near the library?
They seemed to be. There was only one that Connie said was partially down, but I have to talk to Peter. Peter was going to go over there, and I was supposed to meet him, and I had not met him. But I don't think there should be. I got to go check. In fact, this week I'm going to go check to make sure there's no insects on them and spray them if necessary with organic spray. That's what I use, just in case if there's any. Because they had an upsurge of some of the, what's the name of those moths? Winter moths, I guess, that in part of the state of Rhode Island, and so I want to make sure there's nothing there. So I'll have to do it this week.
My niece in California, she's got a pet praying mantis now. It's part of the school project at the end of the year, and they have to feed it live bugs. So I thought it might be a good idea that you could maybe like tie it to the tree that's being attacked by bugs and just let it, protect it like you could have a dog around your property to, it's a natural way to get rid of the bad bugs. But
Good point.
anyway, it's in a terrarium in the house and they have to feed it. I forget what bugs they use, but they have to feed it. It likes live bugs. It doesn't seem to like pellets or food or stuff like that. So, all right. Sounds like we've reached the end. So anything else that somebody needs to bring up or talk about that we missed?
I have a question. When we first began our virtual meetings, wasn't there another conservation commission? And what happened to him?
As far as I know, he's still on. I sent him all the stuff. I have not, gotten something back saying, look, I'm off or I quit or something like that. So I guess he just couldn't make it tonight.
Has he made it to any though?
Yeah, I think he was in one of them, one of the virtual ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
I don't
feel
think the
like
last one.
even though we have not met monthly, we must have met at least a half dozen times since that one meeting he attended.
Yeah.
So
as far as I know,
heard-
he's still a member.
Has
and
anyone
then has
heard from
anybody
Connie?
heard from Connie?
I didn't get any emails or anything from her, but I didn't get a bounce back or anything when I sent the agendas and such.
Yeah, she's usually pretty efficient. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
maybe she's ill.
I can send her an email just to follow up, see how she's doing.
Yeah. Wasn't that guy's name Adam something?
The new guy?
Yeah.
It's Sean.
Sean Ferdema.
Oh, Sean. That's great. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. For some reason. I did have a neighbor that was interested in joining, but he wanted to wait a while
Okay.
to get a sense of the town.
That'll take
All right.
longer than a while.
Very true.
Yeah.
I kind of implied that.
And then the other thing
How
is,
long are you gonna live in the town?
do you remember, oh my gosh, like I'm not a very good person knowing time, but I'm going to say 2 years or so ago. And we were certainly, our meeting was at the library, and a gentleman turned up. He had purchased land on 8 Rod Way at the beginning of Weetamoo Woods.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I walk my dog there all the time. So the monuments went in, they put up the,
This is for the solar panels.
Yeah.
no,
No, it's a house, right?
a house.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I'm thinking of 2 different places then. Okay.
Right. So 8 Rod Way at the beginning of Weetamoo Woods, you know, there's the parking
Right,
lot there,
right.
but
Okay.
that's public actually. So
Yeah.
he bought that land. So it had been a cornfield.
Yeah. Okay. That one.
Yeah. So anyway, the monuments went in, they did some kind of clearing of the big rocks. They put the straw barriers along.
Yeah.
They had some stakes in the ground with orange tape around. And then for over a year now, there's been nothing. And the barriers have now, those straw barrier things have all been removed. Everything's been removed. So I'm just was curious, has he altered his plans? Like,
Maybe they gave up on it.
yeah,
I'll see if I can find out, because I know the owner in the front.
yeah. I mean, you know, there was nothing for me to say I didn't approve of the building of a house there. However, I mean, at the time, I just thought that's an interesting location to choose to build a house, because the foot traffic there is
Right.
considerable.
Yeah, I
And of
remember
course,
that now. Yeah.
that was before the pandemic. And like Tom was saying, I think one of the things that has a positive from the pandemic is the amount of people out and about, out of the houses moving. So, I mean, I have counted days when there have been 29 cars in that tiny little lot and parked up on the grass and then parked across the street by the fire station there, like craziness. So I just
No,
was
he might have
curious.
just changed his mind.
Yeah.
Maybe
He
didn't
paid a lot of
realize.
money for that land, though. They wanted $120,000 for that land.
And now that he's delayed it, he's going to face really big increases in construction costs, because lumber's up.
Yes.
All those things are up tremendously.
Yes.
So that might be part of the problem too, that you can't find contractors, or that the stuff
Yeah.
is so expensive. Now your budget's blown.
Yeah.
Liz, is that land behind Mo,
Yes, it is.
the sheet metal guy? He used
Yep.
to be in sheet
Yeah,
metal.
Mo.
Yeah, Mo.
It's
I don't
behind
know.
that. It's behind his property.
Yeah, if you know him, maybe I know him vaguely, but might be worth finding out what happened. If he maybe he knows.
Yeah, I'll ask him, see what's going on.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you can't find out, let me know, and I'll put in an inquiry to the town planner and see if they know what's going on.
Yeah. I
'cause
mean,
that was a pretty extensive
curious.
meeting. He made all kinds of promises. Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, Brenda. You're right.
Yeah. Just very curious about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Good
And
point.
then the other thing, just as an FYI, is I am also on the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation District, and we just established an agricultural innovation farm in Portsmouth off of Jetson Road. So we now have an innovation farm over there. Not that it's anything really to do with Tiverton, except I just think it's kind of cool.
What does that mean, innovation farm?
So an innovation farm means that we are working with local community groups. And so the Melville School, which is across the street, they're doing a lot of after school programs with the children, learning how to grow things.
Oh, okay.
And so all different grades up through the elementary school, they have the after school. We've also been leasing, but I want to say by leasing, I mean, I think it's like $10 a year if you want to have a little plot to grow your own vegetables over there. So anybody who doesn't have a yard or lives in an apartment or whatever, you can have your little plot of land and you can grow your own veg. And
Yeah, they do that in the cities. It's vacant land. Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah.
Potential farmers of the future.
Yeah, well, I think it's good because, you know, we need people we need to educate our children that food comes from somewhere. It doesn't come from a freezer at Stop and Shop.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
And this is how you grow your food, and this is how you look after the earth. And this is, you know, I just think it's
this is why you look after the earth.
Yeah. I think it's
that's cool. That's
all
cool.
of that stuff. Yeah.
And maybe it'll even get kids to like veggies.
Yeah. Well, apparently there's some research that if you have your kids help prepare supper with the veggies, they're more likely to eat the veggies because they prepared them. They're more invested in trying them.
And if mom and dad see, I like it, you should like it, right?
Okay.
The baby food technique, right?
Yeah.
True. That's interesting. Good program.
Yeah, thanks.
Wait, you mean chicken nuggets come from a bird?
I know, really. Yeah, way down the supply chain though, Tom. I mean, they've gone through a whole lot of adulteration.
My God, my whole life is ruined now. I don't know what to think. I thought they were just blobs that you got in a store.
Yeah, they pretty much are.
Pretty soon they're going to grow meat in a lab, right? They keep showing that on TV.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Please.
That's one of the reasons why I did the clamming too, because I think we need to kind of invest in how we get some of our food to take care of the areas and pass it on to younger people too.
Yeah.
You got it.
Keep it. It's a healthy way to. The environment isn't meant to be just there and just worship. There, you know, we are part of it. We get food from it, but we shouldn't abuse it either.
Maybe we can also consider, no decisions to be made today, but maybe that's something we can consider for our table at Pardon Gray, is just maybe some, I don't know, so I'm just kind of making this up as I go along, but some cute little instruction for children on, if you plant a seed and you water it, this is what can happen. And I don't know, some stuff like that.
Well, you might be able to get a piece of land from the town where you could do the same thing they're doing over in Portsmouth, Brenda.
Yeah.
Figure out the
town of Portsmouth.
Yeah.
A farmer donated the land. He wasn't using it. And the conservation district can't own land. So the farmer owns the land. And the conservation district, I think, is paying like, I don't know if it's the phrase. Is this the phrase here? Peppercorn rent. So it's $1 a year. That's the phrase in England. It's something that's, so in England, a peppercorn rent is £1 a year. And so we're paying $1 a year to the farmer to use his land.
But in the old days, £1 was quite a bit of money though, right?
Well, what old days are we talking about? Because when I was a kid, it was a lot of money, and I don't want to think they.
It's still more than $1, right?
Well, that would be a good program, Brenda.
Yeah. I mean, I can certainly think maybe I'll put my thinking cap on and try and come up with something that would be appealing to children. Learn to, you know, a short little something or other.
Cool.
That we could do on the country day at Pardon Gray.
Sure.
Day. All right.
That would really fit into what they like to do too for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Anything else? Anyone? We're ready to call it a night.
Sounds like a plan, Tom.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the
Okay.
motion, Tom.